Okay, let's start. Hey, thank you very much for joining our post DevLive24 session. I think we only heard positive things from last week. It was really awesome. I also like to be part of it for the first time. And for the first time, it was a hybrid event.
hmm
So thank you, Sherry, for being here. Ron, thank you also, Lars, of course. He was also one of the speakers. And maybe as a first question, just how was it from a gut feeling? What is your first expression, impression you want to share with the public? Sherry.
I thought it was a really great vibe in the room, but I'm actually really curious to hear from Lars and also from Brian because Brian and Lars were both there.
Yeah. So from a speaker perspective, right? I've always been watching developers live events from the sidelines because I've been thinking, come on, I'm attending so many meetings in front of a camera, in front of a screen at a camera. I really don't need one more. So when when it turned out that you managed to pull off an hybrid event, right, with actual live attendance, I couldn't say no anymore. I'm glad that I didn't say no, because it was really fun. Great to connect to people in person. Um, and and well, I had a lot of fun. I learned a bit. Saw a couple of really nice presentations that I liked, and and hope that we can do this again sometime. So
That sounds
so
great.
that's my summary in the nutshell.
Okay, super. Ron, what's your summary as a
Yeah,
moderator?
I mean, my summary is it was great. I think we pulled off a pretty great event. Yeah, I'm going through all the recordings right now and trying to clean them up. There were a little bit of technical snafus, unfortunately, so lessons learned for next time. But yeah, we I think it was great. And I was delighted to the folks, certainly the folks that came in the room, like Brian. The engagement was outstanding. So that's what really, I mean, the engagement online was good as well, but the folks in the room were, yeah, like Sherry said, it was a great vibe.
Maybe Brian, you can say something. How was it in being in the founders towers instead of now before just being online? What was the vibe?
Yeah, so I this is my second conference in the past probably 5 years because, as we know, in 2020 that kind of
Yeah.
Something happened.
happened, and haven't really had an opportunity since then to get back to a live conference. So this is great to actually get to be around folks in the community and talk and even meet some or see some people I haven't seen in a long time, some old friends, some old colleagues. Also meeting new people. I got to meet uh, both Ron and Lars and Sherry, and um, I really enjoyed that part of it. Getting to sit down at lunch with Adobe people and talk problems and features and what's going on and all that sort of thing was awesome. I really hope that we're able to do it again next year. So
Yeah.
Okay, so this would also then be the question I wanted to ask next, sort of about collaboration. Was it really that better to collaborate and to speak to people than only being online? Was it really also used by many, or was it just used by the ones they know each other already, or was it a bigger collaboration? What do you think? Whoever wants to answer.
you mean online versus in person, or
Yeah, just how
like?
were people really interacting, or was it were just the
Yeah,
ones
I think so.
they know each other
Yeah.
anyways talking to each other, or how was
Obviously
the
you're going to
feeling?
drift towards the ones that and catch up, and of course people are more comfortable with the people they know. I tried to reach out, get a little uncomfortable
Yeah.
Yeah.
a bit during during drinks afterwards. And yeah, but it's really great to get to talk to both the on the services side, consulting people that are doing the projects for the companies, as well as the internal people at Adobe that are actually creating the products and deciding what's coming next and that sort of thing. So I think it's hard even with all the technology we have to communicate online and do these sort of things here. It's always a different feeling when you're in person and getting that personal interaction, so
Definitely.
and like I said, it's been 5 years since I was of course at Adapt too a couple weeks before that, and that was awesome as well, getting to meet people there. So it's just good to be back in that mode of actually being the on-site in-person type thing. I don't live in California anymore, so I did have to make travel arrangements and everything. It wasn't that easy, of course, a little easier than going to Germany, but it was all worth it, I think. Really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed the talks too. So
Yeah, I think in terms of engagement that we saw like at the event, there were. I mean, I met I met a ton of people that I had never talked to before. So that was good, and I think the audience was not too big. That it was kind of overwhelming. So I think that kind of worked in favor of engagement, of like people talking to people, because you'd be like, oh, hey, what are you doing? So I think that worked in our favor.
yeah, and since it was just one day, it's like you knew that if you want to talk to this person, you better to go do it now. So probably set up that a little bit.
You don't have to remember what shirt they were wearing yesterday either. I feel like that's always the start of a multi-day event, right?
So
yeah, I'm not saying that I wouldn't mind it being a couple days, but yeah, it's
yeah.
Lars?
So I think I'm very much on record for saying that I haven't been to a conference ever where the main track was better than the hallway track, right? And Developers Live wasn't an exception, right? So the hallway track is the most interesting part of any conference, and the main track is just gravy, right? And as a speaker, I'm absolutely willing to admit this, right? My role is contributing a bit of gravy, and the best run conferences know this and optimize for this, right? So one thing is it being a single track conference is great for that, because it means that it on the one hand means that every attendee has the same thing to talk about, which is how did you like the last talk, right? Whereas when you have multiple tracks, on the one hand you're going to waste time because people are going to run from one session to the next, and then then they often don't have a common thing to talk about, right? The next thing that you can do is to actually make it 2 days or 1.5 days. And the reason for this is that you then have an excuse to stay overnight, have drinks together, which is at least for people who drink, it's a great way to turn introverts into extroverts. And then on top of that, and I have to say this as an introvert, right? Going to these conferences is great, because of course you start sticking to the people that you know. But fortunately, there are extroverts in the world who will just chat you up, right? And who will just reach out to you and talk to you anyway. And that's how you build connections. And that's what I love about these conferences, right? And with anything that happens online, it's much more moderated, right? And because you can have only one person talking at the same time, there's only so many connections you can create in a given time. Whereas in a real conference, you basically can take the take the number of attendees to the power of 2, and that's your number of possible connections. So yeah.
I always love the hallway track as well. And we were actually talking yesterday or the day before. We've been in like nonstop event debriefs this week. But we were running ahead of schedule so much on the talks. Partially because I think we were all concerned about running over schedule. And so our breaks were longer because of that. And yet every single break, no matter the length, we had to direct people back in because everyone was still connecting, which was really, really great to see. Dominic, I'm curious from your perspective, because I know you and Chase and Katuk hosted a pre-show on the virtual platform. How was the engagement in there?
It was really super, the engagement, because when we really asked for questions, they asked questions. As they really jumped in and asked questions, and also in the chat. So and it was very edge delivery services focused. So that's why I also pulled in Lars and Martin and said, hey guys, you have to answer here the right questions. And I really like that, because I also prepared questions with Kautuk together, or that we have, hey, we need icebreakers, we need to push that forward. But as we saw, I mean, there were many people, and people were just jumping in, asking questions, and the discussion was until the end. So it was a very good feeling, very dynamic, good questions, good experts. So yeah, really liked it. It was wonderful. Yeah. And for this, I have another question, because I was not sure. There was this Adobe Developer Sneaks with Mark. Was this a normal session, or was it something like a get together?
It was a normal session, just not recorded, with libations. And yeah, I mean, it was Monica, Mark, and Ravi from Workday just reacting to 4 sneaks that we had for technology, kind of works in progress. And I don't know. I think the engagement was great, because we then, during the event, we made the decision to not do live questions. We actually were a little worried that it was, to Sherry's point of like potentially going overtime, we were a little anxious about, if we do questions, then it leads to people potentially then absorbing the break. So, the format was, we're all here in the room. So if you have questions in the room, by all means, ask the questions directly to the folks during breaks or lunches or whatever. And the sneaks was live Q&A. So it was great getting people to react and ask questions and drive. Yeah, that would be great. Like, please continue developing that kind of a thing. I don't know, Brian, you were there, if you had any, if it was valuable, or we should do it again, or yeah.
I mean, instead of Shaquille O'Neal or somebody we did Ravi, but it's okay. I go way back with Ravi.
No pressure.
Yeah, exactly. I know you guys are friends, so.
Yeah. So, but no, it was good. I think there was a 3 or 4 sneaks.
Yeah,
we were 4 of them, and some interesting stuff. Not sure that the voting system really worked too well. I think it was a 4-way tie, pretty much. Right. But yeah, it was a good addition to the end of the day for the people that were there and got to participate and hear some of that cool stuff coming up. So yeah, enjoyed it.
Yeah, I'm also asking this because there are different formats how you can bring people together and do something other. And was there something at the end missing? What you maybe at the end would have said, hey, we should have done this and this kind of sessions, because people were so interactive, maybe doing an unconference or something like that,
I think the biggest thing that we were missing, and that we would have liked to add in, we had virtually last time, and we'll look to find a way for next time, is that hands-on component. So we did have a few additional rooms reserved right next to Jam, where it would have been possible to do like a hands-on lab and have people be able to walk through implementation aspects in that way. And that's something that we definitely want to do next time, but just we're not able to bring into this event. There were so many new things we were trying that we maxed out on our agenda for sure. But I know that that's always such a valuable thing, especially for developers. And we do want to bring that in next time.
Yeah. So to quickly go back to the sneaks topic, as somebody who a long time ago presented a sneak at Adobe Summit, and that's already more than a decade ago. And always enjoys sneaks, right? Whether it's at Max or at Summit or at Developers Live. I have a couple of ideas how to spend next year's budget, right? So the things that make this right, so the things that make sneaks work well, right, is next time we gotta fly the presenters in, right? Because having it recorded is, and I for instance, while I was giving Anthony, one of the presenters, feedback and told him, hey, your sneak went down well, right? This is the kind of thing that they want to hear, right? So and
100%.
making it live, right? Making it live is giving much more visceral feedback, right? And I still, although it was more than 12 years ago, I still remember this particular session vividly. And that's the other ingredient is put in a celebrity guest, or even better, a comedian, because they can act as a stand-in for the audience, and they can ask the kind of questions that polite people have a filter for, right? And that's what you, right? And I have gotten these questions, I've gotten these comments, and this is what's making these kind of events fun, right? Because you're looking at software that is kind of experimental, potentially broken, right? And if it's in truly ambitious demo, it is most likely broken, right? And the presenter is going to be super nervous because the thing that they're going to show is likely a bit broken, and they're going to trip, and they're going to stumble, and they're going to catch themselves, and talk over it, and then whoever is the celebrity guest is going to call them out for this, right? And this is
Lars, I'm having flashbacks of my sneak that I tripped over when I was at Summit, or did a Summit
Right.
session. So yeah.
No, the thing is, this is fun for everyone. It's
Yeah.
for the presenters. It might take 10 years to get to the realization that it was fun, but it is, right, and that's something that we should replicate next year. So
I think we probably should have started here, but Lars or Ron, do you want to give a quick synopsis of what Sneaks is? Because I know it's something that we do at Summit and at Max, but
Yep.
for those who maybe haven't been, just like a 2-second, this is what Sneaks is.
So sneaks are basically engineering-driven demos of new features straight from the labs, right? And these are things that are extremely experimental, so things that might become a feature, things that are just a tech demo, and then there's a lot of audience participation, which basically means we are, as Adobe, we are gauging the audience's feedback on these things to see which ones to turn into actual features and which one to put back on the shelf. And it's generally, I would say, it's one of the highlights for Summit, for Max, and when you look at post-event YouTube summaries, right? It's as much as we have extremely polished executives who are giving great and fantastic keynotes with a lot of substance. The thing that is going viral is always the engineer who is showing this one weird sneak, and that's what I love about this. So,
Exactly.
yeah.
Okay, so I think we have to go in this direction and do a sneak
Yes.
peek
Yeah.
conference at the end.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why we brought it in, because it is such a fan favorite from Summit and Max. So Mark really brought that in, and I know Ron is such a big fan of Sneaks. We were
Oh my God.
in San Jose a month before the event, meeting with all the teams planning for Developers Live, and Ron's like over here in the corner watching Sneaks on his phone because of
Max Sneaks were going on at the same time, so I'm like, I'm sorry, I have to pay attention to Max
You
Sneaks. I
literally
cannot
had a
pay
block
attention to
on
this
your
meeting.
calendar.
Yeah.
You literally had a block on your calendar because Sneaks was happening. I loved it.
Exactly. It is that important.
Yeah.
Yeah, and another question would be, how was the online part of the conference compared to last year? Because last year was only online, and now, what do you think? Is it now you have both sides? How was the online side of the?
So I think that's a question for you, Dominic, because you were online, or maybe Artem, James, Carrie, Narendra.
I was the EMEA guy, you know. I was then stopping after, and I'm not so long at Adobe, so I cannot say I was at Adobe Developers Live for a few times. So maybe,
for
maybe
me,
others can say.
Just in general, online versions, you know, if you don't have that time cut out for the conference, a lot of times you're just tempted to go watch the recordings later. You don't really. It's very rare somebody will actually participate live, during the conference and get the full experience. So that's the only thing for me is, I fall into that. I have meetings and whatnot if I don't have an actual few days planned for a conference. So I'll go back and watch the recordings, which, yeah.
Did anyone here attend online only besides Dominic? Anyone? No one. Okay. Sorry, Lars, you were saying.
So right after Developers Live, I flew to Amsterdam to attend Performance Now, and they did a really interesting thing, right? So they also had a live stream. They did a really interesting thing to bridge those two, which was on the stage they had a little coffee table and two chairs, and then at the end of the session, the host would basically grab the presenter, would sit down for a 5-minute question and answer round, and all of the questions were things that were taken from the live stream chat and from social media, right? And that's a great way to, right, because that means that the questions that you're asking in the live stream are actually consequential, and that gives you an incentive to tune in, right, and to listen live instead of just watching the recording. And I Brian, I fully agree, right? Whenever there's a live event, you're always tempted to watch the recording at twice the speed, because right. And,
well, I can only handle 1.5 in my brain.
Okay,
right there you go.
Right, so and being a slow talker myself, I fully admit that one of the worst features of reality is that you cannot 2x it. So the temptation is there, and you need to do something to overcome it. And that was really one of the things where I thought, hey, this is a great innovation in running conference. I would like to see that in more places.
Yeah, we've had a lot of talks since the event about like what's the right approach, right? Do you do an in-person event and then follow it up with a virtual edition a couple weeks later? Like there's so many different ways that people are doing it now so that both audiences feel like they're first class and not left behind for whatever. So the other thing that I find is tricky about virtual conferences is, yes, I always say I'm going to watch the recordings, but if I don't watch it live, half the time I don't ever get around to watching the recordings. So that's always an interesting thing too.
One and this is putting work on Ron's table. One of the things that you can do to make the recordings more attractive, right, is to edit them correctly, right? And one part of this is the tech setup, right? And ideally you would have two cameras so that you can focus once on the speaker and sometimes on the, right, you take the take the big total shot where you have the entire stage and the speaker and the slides. That makes it more engaging just seeing slides or just seeing a little speaker somewhere somewhere in the corner, and that also gives you the opportunity to basically cut a 20-minute presentation down to a 10-minute YouTube video, right, which is way more which doesn't feel like a commitment anymore, but feels like something that you could just watch on a break. So
yeah, we planned for sessions to be a lot longer. I mean, as Sherry was saying, like 20 to 25 minutes, and people consistently came under. And I mean, some of them just by their very nature are like 10, 12 minutes. So hopefully they'll be super consumable.
Yeah.
And the
Always have the little
thing-
segues with the iPads on them. People going around.
Yes,
I
exactly.
used to do that, remote offices.
How can we bring San Jose and EMEA closer together, that we have more people from Europe? Are there any ideas? Because I think a
You
lot
mean
of
in
people
terms
jumped
of
out. Maybe also some visitors from EMEA. I saw some visitors at Adaptu from the States, from Asia, from all over the place.
Well,
I mean, we did have that, right? We had people flying from Australia to San Jose, so there was some of that, but I think a lot
Mark
of it's
doesn't count.
timing.
Yeah.
No, I'm not talking about just. It wasn't just Mark. Nick was there too
Okay.
from Australia.
Yeah.
But yeah. So I think some of it's timing, some of it's a matter of when we got approval to do an in-person event, and then getting the word out, and people still having budget available for the quarter. So we definitely have a lot of learnings from this year to bring into next year. There was also supposed to be a larger gap between Adapt2 and Developers Live, but then Adapt2 had to reschedule, and so they got closer together, and I'm sure that didn't help either.
One trick that you can pull is to have the event in New York or somewhere on the East Coast time zone. Right? That puts it closer to a lot of the European audiences time wise, and also travel wise, right? Because from most European countries you can just fly in 6 to 7 hours versus the 12-hour trip to the Bay Area.
Yeah, exactly. And you can log in earlier, or you can start at maybe 3 o'clock, maybe even 2 o'clock if you. Yeah, that would be great.
We will most likely be in the same venue for next year, just because we have that venue available to us, and also the PMs are there too, which makes it easier for more of that team to come in without needing to worry about budget for them. But absolutely, there's always logistics of where can you locate it from a time zone perspective, and from a location perspective too. Our New York office definitely can't handle this event in the way that the San Jose office can, so it would be moving to a third-party venue if we were to do that.
Exactly. Yeah.
What could be
speaking of
oh, sorry, Ron.
Well, I was going to say, speaking of the proximity benefit, right? So in terms of putting out a conference, there's a number of factors involved. One of those, as Sherry mentioned, is the proximity to people that are there anyways that you would want to talk to. And another one is, what's around the event, what's going to make it valuable for somebody to travel. Certainly Founders Tower is interesting. I think, Brian was able to attend the skill, whatever it's called.
Yeah, Skill Exchange downtown
Skill Exchange.
in San Francisco.
Yeah, in San Francisco, like 2 days later. So that was a way to kind of trip link, if you will. But I wish we had like a developer component to Summit, because if you want to talk about like an audience that's kind of already going to be there, and it's in Vegas, so there's kind of a reason to do other stuff there potentially. If it's easy to travel there. I don't know, but
So, um, s- as a conference, as a regular conference attendee, there's one trick that you can pull, which is getting me to visit a conference in Portland, and that's not Portland, Oregon, but Portland, Maine, which right
I love
is
Portland, Maine.
extremely it's a great place, and it's from a European perspective, it's incredibly inconvenient to get there, right? Because you either fly to Newark and then you're in Newark and you have to connect, or you fly to Boston and then you have to take a 3-hour road trip. But there are two reasons why this is a must-go event, right? And one is that it's fantastic, stellar speakers every single time, right? And the second part, and I hate to admit this, especially now that I'm on record, is the food is just fantastic, right? And conference catering often feels like an afterthought, right? And
Yeah.
there it doesn't, right? And that is right. And given the priority of the hallway track, right? Connecting over great food is something that can make a real difference, right? And the thing is, we obviously have to put it in the budget and have to justify it internally. But for all attendees, it can be the dirty little secret, right? That we're going to the Adobe event, not just to learn about Adobe technology and to connect with the Adobe community, but also to have some of the greatest food that the Bay Area has to offer.
Yeah.
Right. And the thing is, great food doesn't have to mean expensive food, right? Could be just, hey, let's get some of the Bay Area's best food trucks, roll up on the sixth floor. I don't even know if that's possible, and do that, right? So that could be something to make this
Sounds like a great
interesting.
idea. Yeah. I love that.
Lars, are you saying you didn't like the food?
I definitely ate the food, so but I'm not going to say that the portions were too small. So
One thing I just thought of is everybody at the conference, of course, has their laptops and their devices that need a
Yeah.
charge, and the outlets in the seats did not have a charge, so we had to go find where to find outlets to power up our laptops and whatnot.
Those outlets weren't working?
Not the ones in the seats.
Okay, this is actually the first I've heard of that. Did you know
Oh,
that,
okay.
Ron?
No, I didn't know that either.
That would have been good information to know. I didn't run around plugging my laptop into all of them, but I had not actually heard that they weren't working.
Yeah. And
maybe
we
they couldn't find that switch either.
Yeah, and we should give that information to possible sponsors next year, that pre-charged power banks are going to be a much appreciated sponsor giveaway. Right, so
There you go.
Yeah.
We'll also make sure that those outlets work. They were so conveniently located. I'm sorry to hear that they weren't actually working.
Okay, so for next year, is there already a date, or maybe a month?
There is not. So the event was 9 days ago. We slept for a couple of them. We spent several days messing with recordings. We are working on that plan, so hoping to have that in early 2025. So the plan is to come up with a plan in the next month. But I will say this Developers Live, we actually had the date reserved since February, but really had to work to get a hybrid event approved. So it took us a long time to be able to share that information. So the goal is to be able to share it a lot sooner this year, now that we've been able to pull off an in-person event, and we have a lot of feedback from people saying that this is what they want, and that it was worth it. So.
Okay, and any changes already now that will happen next year?
No, we're still gathering input. So if you attended the event, you have a survey hitting your inbox in 20
Yeah.
minutes. If you're an Adobe person, a survey hit your inbox yesterday. So
I
go fill
received
that
it
out.
as
Because all of that input, right, helps shape the event. We really do read all of it every year. This was so I created Developers Live in 2020, which is why this is the first year it's been in person. And this was
Yeah.
the seventh one that I've been involved in. There's been a couple others that I wasn't involved in. And every single year, we really do implement as much of that feedback as we can into the next event. So definitely fill those out and let us know whether you're Adobe team or customer partner, whoever. We really do care what you think about the event and how we can make it better.
Yeah, definitely. So I think we are all looking forward to next year. Are there any cool anecdotes that happened at the conference you did not expect from the people you were surprised? Something special.
I mean, I was surprised that we ended up having a 2-hour lunch and still had to kick people out. Cedric had a round table going for like the entire 2 hours. We're like,
Wow.
go back to the room.
Yeah, but that's a good sign. That's definitely.
I was also surprised Ron didn't invite me to the unofficial after party that I didn't know about, but
Yes, exactly. Yeah. My sincerest apologies.
Maybe there will be an
I did
official
see,
after party.
when I got there, I saw Shanton and walk through the lobby. I'm like,
yeah. Did you get to say hello?
I did not. I was trying to get my registration and everything done. I think maybe
Okay.
a couple people got pictures with him, but
I know Priya did. One of our
Yeah.
champions got to take a picture with him. Yeah.
and I want to thank Sherry. Thank you again for help me straighten out my triple booking. I don't know what happened.
All good.
So
All good.
it must have been the shady internet at my hotel or something, because the website was flaky. I ended up noticing 3 charges for the conference on my credit card. So Sherry helped me get that straightened out.
Oh wow. Okay.
I will say too, one of our biggest topics coming out of this event has been that we have to spin up a landing page on Edge Delivery Services for the next event. So
Yes, exactly.
just to
Yeah.
really show off that
Yes.
tech, right? Just due to the nature of the conference. And it's not an event platform, but we can use an external landing page with our event platform. So it's fine, and it's something that should happen. But Brian,
Yes.
actually, I'm really curious because I know you had a company change right before the event. How was it to go to an event representing, because you were at your previous company for a while. How was it to go representing a new company?
I don't know how much I should talk about this, but
I can
you
cut the recording
decline
if
to
you want.
comment if you want.
yeah, I mean, I guess that was kind of part of the whole when I had the 3 different, because I think I registered under a couple different email addresses too, because of all that.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, no, I mean, I don't think there was even company on the badge, right? Like that we had, so
Yeah.
not a real big deal there. The skills exchange, we did have company on the badge, but I had that straightened out. So,
Awesome.
Yeah.
Part of being in
Oh,
the Adobe building was that we had to use Adobe security badges. So it made badging kind of easy, but it was definitely different than large conference badging.
yeah. Well, so next year I definitely want the conference landing page to be on aem-live. I think we can do
There you go.
a much better job there. And obviously, right, there's aem-live/community/live. Could be a nice URL for next year.
Yeah, we'll have to start talking about that soon. I know this was the first year we really had organic traffic built up for the event, which is really nice to have. So we'll have to start setting that up early.
And one thing that we could build, which is actually the one feature that I want from every single conference website, and I'm never getting it, which is at the day of the event, when you go to the page, to the conference page, the thing that you should see is what's currently on the agenda and what's next up. These are the two most, right? So before the event, you care about things like how to register, where's the venue, travel options, all that stuff. But on the day of the event, what you care about, what's on right now, what's the name of the speaker, what's the hashtag that I should use on social media, and what's the next thing that's coming up, right? And it would be super easy to build. So I'm really up to the challenge. Maybe we could actually do a live coding session for this in Discord, and we built this live component together.
That's a great idea.
The funny thing is that even the Adapt2 website doesn't have that. So maybe we should maybe we should also invite Stefan from Diva to do a live coding, and then he can take that block and use it for Adapt2.
Yeah. They had a good app, but yeah, definitely. Yeah. Any open points? Any questions?
I did have a little bit of trouble finding the recordings at first. You gotta like you go to the portal, but you actually gotta click on the booths tab, I think it is, to get the actual recordings. So I know Ron, you and LinkedIn, you commented, the recordings are available, and me and a couple other people were trying to find them. Eventually did, but
it's a workaround this year. It's definitely a platform limitation, and it's a workaround that we came up with partially because we really wanted to incorporate on-demand sessions this time since we were doing a single track event. But the recordings will also move to Experience League and YouTube once we're done with the online portion of them. It was just the best way to give early access to the recording. So next month they'll move to where they usually are, which are easiest to find on YouTube. Just don't tell our Experience League friends I said that.
Got that out of the recording.
Exactly. We'll have to edit that.
Dominic, Lars, and Ron and I will rock, paper, scissors for which YouTube channel they end up on, but that's a conversation we haven't had yet.
So, and I've been doing some different 3D printing of these little things we gave away. And so, maybe next year we'll have multicolored ones. Multicolored little fidget.
For those who weren't there, you missed out. Ron 3D printed a whole bunch of fidget spinners that were available for everyone throughout the day. I played with mine incessantly for like 2 days straight.
Yeah, there you go.
Mine doesn't have your fancy white stripe.
Yeah, exactly.
They always just red there.
Yeah. I printed off a ton of them, and then I ran out of red filament, and so I replaced it with white. And I was like, "Oh, hey, that's kind of cool."
Yeah.
So, Dominic, I think we should get Ron to write a blog post about 3D printing these fidget spinners. I want a bit more of an. I think a good blog is always a bit weird and eclectic in terms of topics. So this would be just the right thing that I need for this, and I'm also a bit self-interested because I got 2 of these spinners and I gave both of them away. So I will now need to ask my neighbor who has a 3D printer to print them. But for that, I need to get Ron to write the blog post, share the STL file, and
Lars, is that the titanium printer that you were talking about, or is that someone else you were talking
Yes,
about?
yeah. So that would be the ultimate goal. Right? So
To print a metal one of these.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So my
I have to say,
my
3D
my
prints like at a developer conference is so fun. Like Cedric was sitting there for like
Yep.
5 or 10 minutes trying to reverse engineer it.
yeah.
I don't know. I think I might cut my fingers on a metal one.
Yeah. We would round the edges. We would round the edges.
Yeah.
It's all good.
Wonderful, wonderful. So, any questions, any points? Otherwise, I think we are close to the hour.
Yeah.
Anything to say?
Yeah,
Of course, please come.
I'm good. I just thank you, Brian, for joining this morning and joining the event. It was fantastic to have you there. And yeah, thanks for everyone who's watching this.
Yeah, thanks for everyone's rolling it. Artem, thanks for being in here and having your camera on per Lars's request. But yeah, no, I really appreciate, Brian attending, Lars speaking, Dominic, you hosting the pre-show. I think that was such a cool thing, and I know it was a larger audience than you're used to for Frequency too, so I'm sure that was fun for you as well. So one of my big goals always with Developers Live is, that it doesn't end with that day. So I'm always trying to bring in our different key community offerings so that people can get plugged in wherever works best for them, whether that's Discord or the forums or meetups or all of the above, champions, certification, training, feedback panel, like all these different options that we have, because I know it's really hard to figure out where to get plugged in sometimes. So
yeah, I think that's definitely a goal to bring all these possibilities closer together so they can really take whatever they like, take whatever they need, and get access to experts or documentation or whatever they want. That's key.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. And
thanks for having
me. Okay. So I want to thank Ron and Jerry for putting this event together, right? And as somebody who has only been speaking, I can say this: there's so much work going on behind the scenes, and the fact that you made it look effortless is fantastic. The fact that you leave everyone hungry for, hey, let's do this again. Let's do it bigger and better next year. This speaks for itself. So thank you very much.
Yeah,
thank you.
We worked with a production company this time, and it was the decision we've ever made.
Yes, exactly.
I was like, when it comes to organizing an offline event, like I've done meetups and stuff, but I was like, I don't know what I don't know. So we actually connected with Shay, who runs Skill Exchange, and worked with the same production team that she works with. So it was really great.
Super.
Cool. Yeah. Okay, I think that just leaves me with one single question. Dominic, what are we going to do next week? And
so next week is Thanksgiving. That's why we don't have a session, of course.
Okay.
And then the week after is our Christmas party in Basel. So sorry for that. We have a party, we have no session. But then after that, we will have a special Frequency, and there will be Stephen Carter from the AEM practice from Punto, or how is it called? Is it quite? It's a difficult
Bounteous.
Bounteous. Okay. Wow. It's a difficult name, I would say. But he will talk about and introduce his search for utility for edge delivery services. I think this will be super. So not an Adobe expert, really one of our external ones talking about utility for edge delivery services. And then after that, in January, after the break, we talk about the Markdown adapter and Experience League deep dive together with Ahmed.
Right.
So
Wow, there's only one left for the whole year.
Yes.
Yeah, because people are. You know how it is after the 16th of
end of the year.
People will like disappear.
Yeah. Okay. Well, then next year. Next week, we Europeans are going to be thankful for having a quiet today when the Americans are in their
Yes.
turkey coma. And then
Well,
we see each other in 3 weeks from now. And I'm looking forward to it.
Super.
sounds great.
Thank you very much.
Thanks everyone.
All
Bye bye.
right.
Enjoy the day, evening,
Thank you, guys.
afternoon. Bye bye.